Hello students, in the textbook for class 7 science as well as from the S-San reference book, the total number of chapters is 18. Out of these 18 chapters, for the first terminal examination, we will do chapter number 1, Nutrition in Plants, chapter number 2, Nutrition in Animals, chapter number 3, Fiber to Fabric, chapter number 4, Heat, chapter number 5, Acids, Bases and Salts, and chapter number 7, Weather, Climate and Adaptations of Animals to Climate. So let's start chapter number 1, Nutrition in Plants. Chapter number 1, Nutrition in Plants. Okay, let's start. We have already know the term nutrients in the previous class. Nutrients are the components of food. So we can say the nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals. Okay, these are the components of food. These components of food will be termed as nutrients. We know that plants can produce their own food, but we human beings and animals cannot produce our own food, so we depend directly or indirectly on plants. In this chapter, we are going to study the nutrition in plants, so let's focus in plants. The first topic that we are going to study is 1.1, Mode of Nutrition in Plants. Mode of Nutrition in plants. Okay, let's discuss what is mode of nutrition in plants. Here we use the term nutrition, which means that it is the mode of taking food by an organism and its utilization by the body. That is how the food is taken by the organism. So according to the nutrition, we have two types of nutrition. That is the first one will be autotrophic, and the second one will be heterotrophic. Okay, this term autotrophic derived from the word auto and trophic. So auto means self and Trophic means, or trophos. Trophos means nourishment. So the meaning of autotrophic is self-nourishment. That is, the mode of nutrition in which organisms make food themselves from simple substances. For example, plants. Plants can make their own food by the process of photosynthesis that will be studied later. So, plants is an example of autotroph. The organism that use autotrophic nutrition is called autotrophs. So, plant is an example of autotrophs. And next one, heterotrophic. From this word heterotrophic, we can see heteros, which means other. Example of organism which uses heterotrophic nutrition is animal. We know that we, human being, and animal cannot produce our own food, so we directly or indirectly depend on plants. Hence, animal or human being will be under the nutrition of heterotrophic. Let's see the next topic, photosynthesis. Which means food making process in plants. Before discussing what is photosynthesis, let's first try to understand some terms. The first one is stomata. These stomata are the tiny pores present on the surface of leaves. There are many stomata in a leaf. These pores are surrounded by the guard cells. These pores are known as stomata. So, in order to do the photosynthesis by the plants, stomata is required. And the next term is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a green pigment that is present on the leaves or in other parts, that is stem. So mostly the chlorophyll on the leaves will be used for photosynthesis. It helps leaves to capture the energy of the sunlight. This energy will be used for the preparation of food from carbon dioxide and water. Now, let's see the term photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is derived from two words, photo and synthesis. The meaning of photo is light and the meaning of synthesis is to combine. So to do the photosynthesis, light is required, and some materials is required to do the photosynthesis. All that materials will be combined with the light and will do the photosynthesis. So in order to do the photosynthesis, the requirements are chlorophyll, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. These are the necessary things to carry out the process of photosynthesis. If one is missing, then photosynthesis cannot be done. Let's see this diagram. This is the sun. This is a plant. This diagram is showing photosynthesis. Let's see how the photosynthesis is carried on. From the sun, this plant, that is the chlorophyll present on the leaf, will get the sunlight. From the air, carbon dioxide will be taken by the stomata. Water and minerals from the ground will be absorbed through roots, and all these materials will be combined and the photosynthesis will be done. So the process of photosynthesis can be represented by a word equation as carbon dioxide it will take from air plus water. Water will be taken from soil in the presence of sunlight. Sunlight will be taken by chlorophyll. Will give glucose. It is a carbohydrate food. Plus oxygen. Oxygen will goes into air. Okay. In order to do the photosynthesis, carbon dioxide from air is taken by the leaves. Water from soil will be taken through roots, and in the presence of chlorophyll using sunlight, a product called glucose, a carbohydrate food, is obtained, and also a byproduct, oxygen. This oxygen will goes into air. And we have to remember that sun is the ultimate source of energy for all living organisms. After the plant has done photosynthesis, this glucose will be stored in the form of starch. So if a leaf has starch, then it indicates that the leaf, that is the plant, have done photosynthesis. If there is no stars, that it indicates that the plant doesn't do photosynthesis. Let's see this figure. This is the leaf. In the leaf, you see there are tiny dots, circles. These are the chlorophyll. And there is a gap between the guard cells. This gap is the stomata. This is the open stomata, which is guarded by the guard cells. And you can also see the closed stomata. These tiny pores called stomata are present on the surface of the leaves. We have to remember that one pore is called stoma, and the plural form of stoma, that is, many pores, are called stomata. Next, let's do one of the activity. Okay, in this activity, we are going to take two potted plants of the same kind. Say I will mark as A, and the other will be marked as B. This should be of the same kind. Let's keep this potted plant A in the sunlight for 3 to 4 days. This potted plant A will keep in the sunlight, and this B potted plant will keep in a dark room. After 3 to 4 days, I will take out a leaf from both the plants, and I will perform a test called iodine test. You have studied the iodine test in the previous class. When I do the iodine test for the potted plant A, the iodine color turns to blue-black, which indicates that the leaf has stars. This leaf will have stars because this potted plant A is in the sunlight. If it is in the sunlight, then we can say that this plant will perform photosynthesis from the iodine test, since the iodine color changes to blue-black. But for the test of the potted plant B, the iodine solution remains unchanged, which means that there is no stars on the leaf, which means that photosynthesis is not done. And then this potted plant A will keep in the sunlight for 3 to 4 days again, and after that, if we perform the iodine test, then we will find that the color of the iodine will change to blue-black, which indicates the presence of stars because it performs photosynthesis. Likewise, we can do the iodine test for different plants which may be green in color or may not be green. The plants which are not green may also change the color of the iodine to blue-black, which indicates the presence of stars. Even though the leaf of the plant is not green in color, there is a chlorophyll which are marked by the large amount of red, brown or other pigments. Since they have the green pigment, that is the chlorophyll, they will perform photosynthesis. That's why these plants will also change the color of the iodine to blue-black, which indicates the presence of stars, that is, it performs photosynthesis. So we have to know that the color of the plants is green because of the presence of the green pigment called chlorophyll. You may see slimy green patches in ponds or in the water bodies. That color is due to the growth of the organism called algae. The algae appears green because of the presence of the green pigment called chlorophyll. Let's see the next topic. Synthesis of plant food other than carbohydrates. Okay, in the last topic, we have studied that through the process of photosynthesis, plants obtain glucose in the form of carbohydrates. Okay, we know that these carbohydrates contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. This carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are used to synthesize other food such as proteins and fats. This carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, which are present in carbohydrates, is used to synthesize other food such as proteins and fats. So we know that these proteins are nitrogenous substance. Proteins are nitrogenous substance which contain nitrogen. Okay, that is, nitrogen is present in proteins. But how nitrogen is obtained by the plants? We know that nitrogen is present in abundance in gases formed in the air, but this atmospheric nitrogen cannot be absorbed by the plants directly. So in the soil, there are certain bacteria that can convert this gaseous nitrogen into usable form and release it into the soil. And then the plants can absorb the nitrogen. That's why you may have seen that fertilizers are added to the soil by the farmers, since fertilizers have nitrogens. In this way, the plants fulfill their requirements of nitrogen along with the other constituents. And then plants can synthesize proteins and vitamins. Let's see the next topic. Other modes of nutrition in plants. Let's see. Now let's see heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Say example, we human being, animals directly depend on plants or indirectly depends on plants. Like us, there are some plants which depend on other plants. Say for example, cascata, or you can say a marvel. Let's see the picture of cascata. You see, there is a yellow wiry branch structure twining around the stem and branches of a tree. This is the cascata or amabel. This cascata is depend on the host plant, that is the tree. So the nutrients from this host plant, that is the tree, will be taken up by this cascata. So the mode of nutrition that this cascata have is a heterotrophic mode of nutrition because it depends on the other plant. Since it deprives the host of valuable nutrients, cascata can also be called as parasite. Next, let's see an interesting one. There is a plant called Insectivorous plant. Insectivorous plants are the plants that can eat insects. One of the example of insectivorous plant is pitcher plant. Let's see the diagram of the picture of the insectivorous plant picture. It is the pitcher plant because it looks like pitcher. This pitcher or jug-like structure is the modified part of a leaf. There is an apex of the leaf which forms as a lid which can open and close the mouth of the pitcher. Inside the pitcher there are hairs which are directed downwards. When an insect lands in the pitcher, this lid closes and the trapped insect gets entangled into the hair, and then this lid will close and the insect will be trapped. The digestive juices secreted in the pitcher will use in the digestion of this insect, and the nutrients that have in the insect will be absorbed by this pitcher plant. So such insect eating plants are called insectivorous plant. We see this pitcher plant also green in color, which indicates the presence of chlorophyll. Since this is green in color, that is this pitcher plant also have chlorophyll. It can perform photosynthesis, that is they can produce their own food through photosynthesis. Even though this pitcher plant can produce their food through the process of photosynthesis, they can take nutrients by eating the insects. So they have two ways to find your nutrients, that is through photosynthesis and through eating insects. Let's see the next topic, saprotrophs. Let's see what are saprotrophs. In order to understand the saprotrophs, let's do an activity. For this activity, we will take a bread and we'll leave it in a moist, warm place for 2 to 3 days or until fluffy patches appear on them. When we observe under a microscope, we will see a cotton-like threads spread on the pieces of the bread. This cotton-like threads is an organism known as fungi. This organism, fungi, absorb the nutrients from the bread. So, the mode of nutrition that take nutrients from the dead and decaying matter is called saprotrophic nutrition. And such organisms with saprotrophic mode of nutrition are called saprotrophs. So, the example of saprotrophs are fungi, we have already discussed, and we can say mushroom also. The mushroom will also take the nutrients from the dead remains of plants and animals nearby. They have the saprotrophic mode of nutrition. And then the next term that we are going to study is symbiosis. Let's see what is symbiosis. Okay, in the symbiosis, there are some organisms which provide shelter, and there are some organisms which produce nutrients. These two organisms will live together. This relationship of living together by providing shelter by an organism to the other organism and by providing nutrients or sharing nutrients to the other organism is known as symbiosis. Now, I will take an example, lichen. In the lichens, there are two types of organisms. The one is alga and the other is fungus. This alga and fungus will live together. This fungus will provide shelter, water, and mineral to the alga. This fungus will provide shelter, water, and mineral to the alga, and then this alga prepares and provides food to the fungus. So they live together. So living together by providing shelter and by providing nutrients to the other, that is sharing each other, is called symbiosis. Let's see the next topic, how nutrients are replenished in the soil. We have already know that plants absorb minerals and nutrients from the soil. So the amount of minerals and nutrients keep decreasing. In order to increase these minerals and nutrients, the farmers spread manure and fertilizer. So we can say adding manure or fertilizers can replenish the nutrients in the soil. Another one is there is a bacteria called rhizobium. This rhizobium bacteria will take shelter in the roots of the leguminous plant. One of the example of the leguminous plant is pea. So this rhizobium bacteria will take a shelter through the roots of the pea or leguminous plant, and this rhizobium bacteria can convert the atmospheric nitrogen into useful nitrogen that can be used by the plants, since the atmospheric nitrogen cannot be used directly by the plant. So rhizobium bacteria and leguminous plant have a symbiotic relationship, since the leguminous plant gives shelter to the rhizobium and the rhizobium give the nutrients, that is the food nitrogen, to the plant. So in this chapter we have discussed that most of the plants are autotrophs. That is self-nourishment, that is they can produce their own food. Few plants are parasitic or saprotrophic, that is they take nutrients from the host plant. Animals can be under the category of heterotroph. Because animal cannot produce their own food, animal directly or indirectly depend on plants. And there is a plant called Insectivorous plant. Since these plants eat insects, we can say the insectivorous plants are partial heterotrophs, since they can produce their own food through photosynthesis as well as by eating the insects. Now let's have a quick recall what we have learned in this chapter. All organisms need food and utilize it to get energy for growth and maintenance of their body. Green plants synthesize food for themselves by the process of photosynthesis. They are autotrophs. Plants like Cascata are parasites. They take food from the host plant. Plants use simple chemical substances like carbon dioxide, water, and minerals for the synthesis of food. Chlorophyll, water, Carbon dioxide and sunlight are the essential requirements for photosynthesis. Complex chemical substances such as carbohydrates are the products of photosynthesis. Solar energy is absorbed by the chlorophylls present in leaves or plants. Oxygen is produced during photosynthesis. Oxygen released in photosynthesis is utilized by living organisms for their survival. Many fungi derive nutrition from dead and decaying matter. They are saprotrophs. A few plants and all animals are dependent on others for their nutrition and are called heterotrophs. Here it comes the end of the chapter. Chapter number 1, Nutrition in Plants. Thank you all.